Welcome once again to Now.St. Louis. I'm your host, George Blaze, and the conversations continue. We're several weeks now into unrest, the search for social justice. We've had the COVID-19 situation underneath all of it. Even before that, we had problems with gun violence in the streets and other things. If there was ever a time that we needed leadership out here in these streets in St. Louis, now is the time. Joining me today is one of those leaders, Keithan Stallings. He is an entrepreneur and motivational speaker. He's president of 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis, as well as his own nonprofit. Keithan, it's a pleasure to meet you today, sir.
Pleasure to meet you too, George, and I appreciate you having me on the show today.
Well, let's turn the clock back a few weeks. Before all the protesting and stuff was going on, we were dealing with COVID-19, as well as a violent situation in St. Louis. What was going on before everything just kind of broke loose?
Yeah, so it's been almost an imperfect storm, just thinking about the COVID-19 situation, and then right now what's going on with the social unrest. But before the world closed on us, we were doing a lot of great work in the community with the 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis, mentoring our youth in the form of our Collegiate 100. We're also in the health and wellness space and in the midst of our barbershop tour. So we're going to the different barbershops to give different health screenings for free to the people in our community. And the barbershop on Saturdays is one of the places where men tend to congregate. So we try to catch them in their space where they're comfortable to give them testing. Then also with my not-for-profit, the Access Foundation, we were in the midst of doing college day tours in the form of education and leadership at the University of Illinois, and then also the University of Missouri. Those are two of my partner schools.
And of course, everything got disrupted, not only small businesses and our day-to-day lives, but all of the social services and social nets that we've worked so hard to set up to protect those most vulnerable and those most at risk. I guess let's start talking about what's going on with George Floyd's death, and people came out in the streets and are still out in the streets now. This issue of social justice, particularly as it relates to relationship between law enforcement and the community. I think Dave Chappelle recently said it best when he's saying people don't want to hear celebrities talking about this because the streets are talking.
Right.
What are the streets saying?
The streets are saying enough is enough. Never again. Enough is enough. This is the time. Our time is now. And so we need to stop talking about it, and we need to start taking action. Over the last few weeks, we had every major company, put out the message that Black Lives Matter. So right now it's time for everyone to put their money where the mouths are. Let's see the executive board. Let's see your leadership teams. Let's see your diversity strategy. Let's see exactly what you're doing to make the problem better versus just giving lip service to it.
I think that's one of the things that concerned me most once I started seeing major corporations and I see the NFL coming out with it, and then NASCAR, and everybody's about Black Lives Matter. It's like, well, is now this just a marketing campaign? Like, where's the leadership coming from? Because it's not coming from the streets. I don't know who's leading this stuff.
Yeah, so I think right now it's a lot of not wanting to be beaten to the punch, because I think once one major corporation does it, everyone else just kind of falls in line because there's a lot at stake. And what's at stake is money. The bottom line is money in dollars. And so what a lot of companies are doing, they don't want to miss out on money in the form of protest or even getting the future talent. Google was one of the leaders as far as, putting out statements on what they'll be doing. But I think in the past, they're one of the companies that had a huge problem with diversity and seeking minorities. And so I think it's just time for companies not only to talk about it, but to be about it.
The beginnings of the protests all across the country, all across the world, really were focused in on the situation that Black people, particularly Black men in this country, are facing when encountering law enforcement. It doesn't always result in death, but sometimes a tragic death. It takes a little bit of catalyst to get people thinking about it. But it seems to me now I'm seeing a lot of mixed messages, a lot of other agendas. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. And I've been here before. I'm old enough to see that once we get off track on what it is that Black people need right now, what is the point of any of it?
Right. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. I think this is one of the few times, in the past 20 years where the country has its attention focused on Black lives. And right now, the focus is Black Lives Matter. And there's a lot of movements that are trying to hijack that statement. But right now, let's focus on Black Lives Matter. And then if we get that right, we can figure everything else out. But let's continue to focus on Black Lives Matter, and let's stop letting everybody else hijack that movement. Let's focus on getting this right, and then we can move in the right direction after that.
I think it's vital that you said that, and I'll even step even further in terms of being focused on the movement. Black Lives Matter is a movement, always was a movement. Black Lives Matter, the organization, to me, is something completely different. I don't know if you agree and disagree with me on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Black Lives Matter is a movement. I'm not necessarily a supportive as far as where money goes, with the organization, but from a grassroots standpoint in the community, in the streets, we're talking about Black lives. We're not talking about a secret corporation that's, funneling money to places that we don't know about. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter. So support your own local minority-based businesses, support your Black organizations, collaborate with organizations in your community that are trying the best to do things on a daily basis.
And that's the key. They say all politics is local. The most impact that you're going to make, whether you're voting or whether you're putting your dollars, is in your local community and what you're doing. And you don't have to take it from me. I have my opinions about stuff. If you go to the Black Lives Matter website and you look at Act Blue, their funding coordinators and that kind of stuff, if that still suits your needs as to how you want to contribute, more power to you. But I just think you can be more effective right here on the ground in St. Louis, which you have been doing even before all this happened.
Oh yes, sir, most definitely. So it's all about connecting with people who are doing the work. I think when things like this happen, there's a lot of money and funding that gets thrown at the movement. So you get a lot of pretend organizations that just come out of the woodworks trying to scoop up some of that money, and the money does not go to the people that actually need it or to the organizations that are doing the work. So let's make sure when we contribute and we support, we give to the organizations that are actually visually out doing the work that we need.
One of the discussions that's been going on nationwide is this idea of defunding the police. And of course, it means different things in different locales and different places. We see an effort in Minneapolis that's happening. There are things happening in the Chicago, I think today, as we're taping. The Chicago Board of Trustees for Chicago Public Schools is trying to vote to take police officers out of the public schools and replace them with other types of services. When you hear this notion of defund the police, or what is this movement? Where do we need to be going with this for St. Louis?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that I want to get out there is that we need change. And so I'm not about wasting time trying to determine what to coin it, because you're going to hear some people that are talking about defund the police versus police reform. And I think once that happens, you get labeled and you're in a box and you can't really move and navigate the way that you're supposed to move. And so my thing is about change. It's not about determining what it's called. Because if I call it defunding, then I have a whole right side that's going to be against what I say. If I say reform, I have another side that's going to be against what I say. So it's about being agile. It's about change. It's about restructuring the police. I think all of us agree that it needs to be changed. What we call it, I don't want to waste time arguing about that specific thing, but we need to move forward in a direction where change happens, and we need to make it happen now.
Of course, one of the most important things is to be solution oriented. We need to be coming up with ideas and putting things to work that actually do things to help people and help solve some of the root causes, particularly when we're talking about what's going on in the Black community. Clearly, unemployment, poverty, generational poverty, these issues we've been dealing with for a while. Part of getting out of that cycle is things like STEM and these things that you're really focused in with access. Tell me a little about the importance of really getting them young.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that we show, young kids the way. When you talk about college education, they're intimidated because the tuition rates are skyrocketing. And so by the time that these youngsters get 18, 19, 20 years old, the average tuition is going to be, 60, 70, $80,000. So that's going to be out of everyone's ballpark. So it's not even going to be in the equation. But we need to teach them that there is support out there, You need to do your research, find out grant opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and then most important, just the path to get it done. And so we need to connect them with college counselors and different organizations that will help them along the way. And that's what the Access Foundation is about. It's about, finding those 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders that are wanting to go to college, that are wanting some change, but don't know exactly how to go about that route. So it's setting up a platform and connecting them with all the people that's going to be necessary to make that happen, because it does take a village to raise a child, and we really need to come together and make sure that we are teaching them the right way.
A vital aspect of that has to be trying to latch onto and take advantage of the fact that our young people out here are very savvy when it comes to social media and the internet and how all that works, but they might not know how to connect that to resources or how to generate wealth based on that. These are the kind of connections and the inroads we need to start making.
Yeah, most definitely. So I think sometimes as a people we have a hard time asking for help or being connected with the right people. You may be working side by side with someone who can do the world of good for you, but if you are too prideful to ask for that help, or to just be inquisitive enough to ask what that person does, that door is going to be closed. So one of my main teachings is that closed mouths don't get fed, and make sure that your network is your net worth. So make sure that the people that you surround yourself with, you have like-minded goals, and I think that's one of the main things that I try to teach the youth coming up.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me sometimes to see, how quickly, how adept, and how skillful the youth community can be to do negative stuff on Facebook or what have you, and they all of a sudden get 100 people in one
Right.
place in 15 minutes, but we can't figure out a way for them to be able to get 100 people together to do something positive.
Yeah, most definitely. It's about those soft skills. And so with the Access Foundation, tomorrow night, I actually have a series called the 30 Days of College, the Block to the Boardroom series. And what it does is kind of teaches them those unknown things that it takes to be successful when it comes to college, because many of us are first generation college students. So they'll get on campus and they'll be lost. If there's a lot of different things on the college campus that's going to distract you as an 18 and 19-year-old. And those first 30 to 60 days are important as far as you being successful or you failing. You're failing because it doesn't take a lot to flunk out of school that first 30 to 60 days of school. I've seen it before. I've seen my friends pack boxes and walk out of the dorm rooms because they had a bill due that they had no idea was coming about. So I get into everything, every little detail that it's going to take for them not only to be successful, but to maintain um, their college registration.
One of the hardest things has been, especially for our elementary school and our high school students, who their entire lives in their every day to day was derailed in ways that, as adults, we can buffer some stuff and we can take a little bit more. But as a young person, where your life experiences, the most important years of your development, have suddenly been derailed in such a drastic way, getting them back in a mindset to go back to the classroom, I think is going to be one of these challenges. I don't think anybody's really thinking about how hard this is going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think not only, getting back to the classroom and getting a college degree and something as far as an education beyond high school, but also learning those trades. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that go unfulfilled just with people lacking the skills of trade labor. And so that's one of the things that we teach as well. That there's an alternative to college, because there's not everyone is equipped to, to go to school. And to be honest with it, it's not always the best alternative, because you'll graduate, 80, 90, $100,000 in debt. And so you have to do the math. You can, spend the rest of your life paying that back, or you can maybe do a 6-month trade school thing and come out making $60,000 a year and be debt free for the rest of your life. So just have to ask the question, what do you want to do and what path you want to go down?
Well, we as adults and we as mentors and we as parents, we have to make kind of a shift in the way that we think and we prioritize things. Because I was raised of a generation where it's like, listen, I don't care what degree you get, just go out there and get a degree and you'll figure it out on the back end. When it's like, well,
Right.
not everybody's going to be able to code. Not everybody's going to be able to do these tech skills. Not everyone's going to be great at STEM, but we're always going to need carpenters. We're always going to need plumbers. We're always going to need mechanics. These are the businesses that stayed open during the lockdown. These are the
Right.
people who were still working. I think we have to get out of the mindset of pushing everybody into, I don't know, some kind of a mainstream idea of what success is, what it takes to raise a family, what it takes to become a homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, even something as simple as being a homeowner, 10, 15 years ago, that was the ultimate goal, to own a home. But right now, you have to ask the question: is that the best way to achieve wealth? And so these young men and women that are graduating today, they don't have to own a home. As a matter of fact, some people are not even owning a car, the first few years after college, because it's a debt. And the way technology is set up now, you can Uber, you can Lyft, you can get on one of those scooters, and you can get back and forth to work, in the grocery store, and in your restaurants, as long as you locate yourself in a prime area of the city. So it's just a new mindset in 2020, and we just have to change the way that we think.
Getting back on the topic of what's of the violence that's going on in our streets, I mean, it's especially difficult now when we have social distancing and the lockdown going on in various parts of the country, where the divergent type of programming you might have during the summer months to get kids off the street, to get young people focused on other things and just being out there idle, those are gone. So there's a lot of idle hands and idle minds out there. How do you, as an organizer, you as a leader, adjust to that or readjust to that?
Yeah, so everything is around, Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Hangouts. So it's about just being agile and being able to utilize the technology that's offered to us. And I think in the next year and a half, 2 years, that's exactly, what we have to do. And I think as some of the young people coming up, the technology that we're using right now, that's exactly how they've been communicating the last 5 to 10 years. So it's going to put them at an advantage if they know how to use it right, because we need to figure out how to work as a team, not being together. And some teenagers and young adults, they've been doing that for the last 5 to 10 years. So if they figure out a way to bring that to the table with any company, they're going to be a valuable asset.
Local government here in St. Louis, of course, is focusing in on making sure business gets back up and going, making sure our economy stays stable, that there's jobs for the future, making sure that streets are going to be safe when things start to open back up again. I just don't know how much engagement the government has time for to give to young people. It's vital that other resources come into play right now.
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the main things that I try to teach is, like, during this downtime, learn something new. Whether it be, to your point, learn how to code, learn how to build a website, learn a new trade, or something skillful that you will be able to come out of this hole and actually better. I have a friend of mine, David Williams, and he has a grab and go trash delivery company that wasn't doing too well before COVID-19, and based on the needs of the community and the city right now, he's doing better than ever. And so it's just situations like that, that we really need to start being creative as far as how we do business, and most important, how to make money and how to be successful.
Yeah, it's little ideas that during times like these, that not everybody is working, not everyone has money, but everyone still has needs. I think things like the little mobile car wash units that people have set up,
Yeah,
where they'll come out, they can go online and sign up. You come out to their house and wash the car. Those kind of small business ideas are perfect for our young people today.
right. Yeah, definitely. And so ways to make money aside from the food, they're having free delivery, they're selling packaged liquor. And so you really have to be creative about how you go about doing your business and how you go about making money, because I think in the next 2020 to 2022 is going to be huge for business owners to stay in business.
Now, of course, we're moving into probably one of the most interesting, if not vital, election cycles in my adult life, especially on the national level. There, you hear a lot of rhetoric from the current administration saying that, well, since President Trump has been president, we have the lowest Black unemployment and the lowest Asian unemployment and Latino, and this has been a great time and a boom for the Black economy. I haven't seen it. I live in an urban area. I don't know who's getting all these jobs. What's your take on what's going to happen in November?
In November, man, I mean, this probably been like the worst 4 years of my life, and so I'm hoping that there's a change. I think we've been let down. from a national leadership standpoint with everything that's going on, from police brutality to the COVID-19 situation to our foreign relations. So I think when people say go out and vote, we need to say a little bit more than that. We need to vote strategically and get the people in place that's going to support what we need. Don't just say vote. You need to get certain people out of office.
That's such an important thing to say, because you and I can sit here on television today and say these things, but there are many other black men like ourselves on TV, on the radio, that are pushing an agenda. And we
Mm-hmm.
can't forget that every vote is a transaction. You
Right.
don't vote party lines. You figure out what your list of best interests are, and you figure out who's going to make that happen, and that's how you vote. I don't buy into the party line stuff anymore.
Yeah, me either. It's all about like you said, it starts at the local level. Don't just vote national, vote local, and then figure out who has your best interest in mind, and then also come to the table with a massive amount of votes. I think that's how you start to gain power. So you talk about some of these organizations and churches. We need to go in a closed room and decide who we want to vote for, and then come to the table and let them know we got 2,000 votes unless you do X, Y, Z, and that's where the power comes from. That's where the influence comes from, and that's what we need to start doing.
And the other side of that has to be, an honest statement of, look, if you're not going to address our needs, if you're not going to address what we're looking for as far as results, then we're just simply not going to vote. So that black
Exactly.
vote that you took for granted is not going
Right.
to be there. And you can blame black people all you want for Trump being
Right.
president, but it's like, no, your failure to address the needs of the black community, particularly as what we're seeing right now, where cities are burning, and you still don't want to address the needs of black people. Like, why are we even going?
Right. That's true. I mean, we can't be taken for granted anymore. So we just need to figure out who the best people are, get those people in office, and most important, come with a unified front, and come with a strategy, a voting strategy.
It's important, particularly for the young people watching today, who they're trying to follow what we're saying. I mean, you and I are speaking some code language here because we have a little bit of knowledge. But as far as resources for where young people can get news, information, what are some of the things you do? Where do you get your information from? How do you sift through it all to see what it is that's true?
How do I sift through it all? So I try to utilize a lot of neutral sources. So sometimes I get my news from outlets that are outside of the United States because they don't have a leg in the game, and so they're going to tell it like it is, and they're going to give a perspective that we don't think about. Sometimes in the U.S. we tend to be sheep, and so like whatever's printed, whatever's on the media, we're going to believe. Say for instance, for example, with the protests that are going on, there have been peaceful protests for the last 3 weeks, but if you turn to certain stations, they're still showing video and footage from 3 and 4 weeks ago. So they got people thinking that the country's just burning down and everybody's going crazy and we're losing control. And that's what supports that police state.
I'm,
We
I-
got
I'm
the police
glad.
go out and go to war and bash some heads in, and that's not the case.
I'm really glad you said that, because one of the things that I've noticed is, a lot of young people now are on TikTok, and TikTok is one of these things. It's a Chinese company, and all you're going to get from them all day long is black people and white people fighting each other. And I'm
Yep.
telling y'all, stop letting this stuff feed your mind. It is not
Yeah.
what's happening. This stuff
Right.
is old footage from weeks ago. It's not going on right now, but there's no way a young person would know that. If they spent 3 hours on TikTok, they think there's just a race war going on all day.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. You have to do your own research, come up with your own conclusions, and most important, just think for yourself. Thinking is one of the most difficult and exhausting things, and as human beings, we tend to take shortcuts. So we're just going to take what someone else gives to me, or someone else spoon feeds me. But we need to do our own research and make up our own minds if we want to figure this thing out.
To do the work that you do, Keith, and you got to have a little bit of faith, you got to have some courage, and you got to have a lot of love. What do you love most about St. Louis?
Love about St. Louis. I love the proximity to just get to different cities. I can drive to Chicago, Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta's in driving distance. I can fly to California in 4 hours, fly to DC in 3 hours. So I just like the proximity of just being near everything. Um, and of course, my family's here. I was born and raised in East St. Louis, so shout out to East St. Louis. But yeah, so I love being around my family, and I definitely love my community. I have my son Kellen, and he's definitely an inspiration for me. And my wife Daphne, she supports everything that I do, so I do everything for them. And also my work ethic I get from my mom. So I have all three of those people close at hand, and I lean on them anytime I need strength.
Well, I tell you what, I've been around a while, and I'm an old Chicago dude, and I tell you, everyone I met from East St. Louis, they good with these handles, man. You don't ever want to get in a random street fight with a dude from East St. Louis.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, yeah. Are you a Cubs fan?
No, sir, no, I'm a South Sider.
South Side, White Sox. Okay, okay, cool. We have to catch a game, man. We have to catch a game.
Absolutely. Keith and Stallings, so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the work you're doing out there. The people need you. The streets need you. We need more leaders out here really committed to building organizations, building foundations, and really getting in contact and getting in touch with what the youth need and making sure they have the resources. For young people who are watching today, what's your message for this summer? What are we going to do this summer?
Hey, enough is enough. So we need to make a change. Do what it takes by any means necessary.
All right. I like that. The streets are talking. Keith Stallings, thank you so much for joining me this week.
I appreciate you. All right.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week right here on Now.St. Louis.